highlighted icon down there on the right hand, down there on the middle side. It's highlighted for the archives, our archive series of webinars. So during this whole COVID telework landscape, the CalTAP team has produced hundreds of virtual webinars to where that you could be able to view on your own time. And they're really topic specific webinars, everything from mental health services to education webinars, employment, entrepreneurship webinars as well. And this webinar will be recorded also and placed on our website for viewing at a later time. So really just wanted to kind of highlight our webpage and kind of how to find us if you want to kind of navigate at your own leisure. So if you also went to our website, this is some of the other programs within Calvet at our headquarters buildings that operate. As you can see, we have a home loan department at Calvet, our minority veterans outreach, our veterans home divisions throughout the state, veterans services, which is what the CalTAP program falls under, and our women's veterans outreach program too. So just some additional programs that Calvet can offer if you're interested in each one of those types of service, if it relates to you. So I just also wanted to highlight just kind of an overview of what are your California specific veterans benefits that may be available to you or your family member here in the state. We won't go through each one and the eligibility for each, but this is just to kind of give you a snapshot. You can see everything that we offer from fee waivers for dependents of service-connected disabled veterans, license plate programs, hunting and fishing discounts as well, state parks passes, property tax exemptions if you're eligible through your county, entrepreneurship resources, our home loans. If you're interested in home ownership here in the state of California, Calvet offers its own home loan program similar to the VA home loan, but different in its own regard. And our women and minority veterans outreach, our Calvet veterans homes that I mentioned as well, and our state operated Calvet veterans cemeteries. So we highly encourage you to maybe find these resources through our website as well. And also through our California Veterans Resource Book. This is a great tool to keep handy. If you don't have a hard copy, we encourage you to go on our website to download the PDF version. It's basically an A to Z listing of all your California veterans benefits, as well as your federal benefits from the VA, covers everything regarding service-connected disabilities, your education benefits, local, county, state resources as well. So really encourage you to get your hands on a copy of this Veterans Resource Book if you do not already. So that is basically an overview of CalTAP and Calvet and some of the programs that we offer. My contact information will be here throughout the day, but again, feel free to reach out if you have any questions to myself or the CalTAP team to where we can provide you any more additional assistance. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Mr. Kevin Graves, who serves as the local interagency network coordinator, also known as a link in the Bay Area, and he's going to tell you a little bit about some of the work he does regionally. So with that, Kevin, take it away if you're ready.
Thank you very much, Derek. Appreciate it. I just want to welcome everybody to the webinar also. And a little bit about myself. I currently serve in the Cal Guard as a E7 Sergeant First Class with the 185th MP Battalion over here in Pittsburgh. And haven't been to drill for a week or so. But otherwise, I'm also a Gold Star dad. My son gave his life for his country 25 July of 2006 in Iraq. And it's a pleasure and an honor to be able to serve veterans in this capacity. Can I get the next slide? So the state's divided up between 8 and, military link. We're local interagency network coordinators, but we are a link between Calvet and the communities because there's 8 of us that are boots on the ground in these 8 different regions that you see indicated here on this map. There's also contact information there. So wherever you are in the state, there is somebody that is very knowledgeable and very well trained on resources and benefits that are available to you in your particular region. And you can, my contact information will be on here. I can guide you in the right direction or answer questions also. but please notice where you live and what link would be in your region, so they would best be able to take care of your needs with regards to benefits and resources locally. Next slide, please. So what do? We provide outreach. Again, we are a connection between CalVet Sacramento and the community. We do outreach. We make referrals and work directly with service provider networks. We work with a lot of for-profit, nonprofit, governmental, non-governmental agencies that serve veterans specifically, and try to make sure that veterans get together with the benefits that are provided. As we are discussing here today, we assist with local emergencies. We are regular attendees of the local assistance centers, which you'll hear about a little bit more in this webinar, and also with regards to any sort of on-site replacement of forms and things that may have gotten lost in the fire and that type of thing. We also work closely with our local communities to advocate on your behalf, to make sure that local communities understand that there's a definite benefit to having veterans as part of their community, and that they should be engaged and engage veterans in everything that happens at the local community level. Next slide, please. We are a unique position in that that we focus strictly on outreach. So there is no other, the VA has outreach coordinators that we work very closely with. We do work very closely with the VA and with our federal big brother, I like to call them. We're the little VA, they're the big VA. And so, but within the state, we are a unique position in that we go out and we seek benefits and resources that we can provide to you, the veterans. We also assess the status and needs of veterans with regards to where you live and what's available to you. And again, please refer to that map that you saw earlier for local assistance in your area. Next slide, please. I didn't write this, but okay. We are experts in the area of veteran services and benefits at all levels. We don't focus strictly on CalVet benefits and resources, but we try to work and coordinate closely with, as I said, all other different kinds of service providers also. And we can definitely explain the different types of infrastructure that's available for veteran services within the state. It can get confusing. We're bureaucracies, and not by design, but by creation. It can be difficult to navigate sometimes, and we're here to help you, guide you down that path. Next slide, please. We work closely with regards to employment with our sister agency, the EDD, who has dedicated DevOps and leavers who not only work to help you, the veteran, find a job, but they go out and seek employers that are looking to hire veterans and explain the benefits of having veterans on their employment team. So when it comes to employment, that's who we partner with. When it comes to benefits and resources that are locally, we rely also very heavily upon our county veteran service offices. You will hear a little bit more in detail about them coming up in the webinar, but let me just say that for most of the benefits that come through CalVet, you can go to your county veteran service office and they will be able to help you find those benefits and sign you up for those benefits, and also to validate your eligibility for those benefits. And then again, we work closely with not only the benefit side of the VA, but also with the healthcare side, advocating on your behalf and working closely with the VA medical centers in their outreach. And then also with our vet centers, which is another great resource for, especially with when it comes to mental health. They have staff that are trained to work together with combat vets, and we rely heavily upon them for that type of a resource. Next slide, please. And it's me. There's my contact information. Again, if you weren't able to get a copy of the map, I think all this is going to be available to you, but please feel free to reach out to me. That is my cell phone number. Call me anytime between 8 and 5. Call me anytime. And especially if you're in crisis, and we'll see what we can do to help you out. But that's my contact information, and it's been a pleasure speaking with you today. Thank you for giving me the time, and I will turn it back over to Derek.
Thank you so much, Kevin. As always, really appreciate the information. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Nick Murray, who is with the California Governor's Office of Emergency Services. So with that, Nick, if you're ready, the floor is yours.
Hey, good morning, everybody. I am going to apologize in advance if my children do rush my bedroom door and occupy the bedroom by force. I've got nothing to do. It's just the way it goes. But with that being said, I'm Nick Murray. I'm a Senior Emergency Services Coordinator with Cal OES. Basically, what that means is I'm one of many liaisons that we have within the state that tries to match resources with those that are in need during times of disaster. So that's the easiest way to put it. Go ahead and go to the next slide, please. So really quickly, Cal OES's mission is simply to support the state through our various partners to help protect lives and property. And we do that through all of our local partners. And when we talk about local partners, what we mean is our counties. We work with very closely with the county offices of emergency services, as well as our federal partners as well, to bring resources to support those disasters and try to do our best to take care of people as we can. Next slide, please. So some of the things we're going to cover today, one, very important for anybody that's trying to be generally prepared for disasters, is you got to know what your risks are. We're going to cover different types of personal preparedness, things that you all can do. Then we're going to cover some property preparedness, and then what you guys can do going above and beyond. And finally, we're going to cover some useful links that will be sprinkled throughout the presentation, but we put it all in nice one slide for you at the end. Next slide, please. All right, so the first thing is know your risks. Whether you're moving to a new area or you've been in the same neighborhood for the last 10, 15, 20 years, maybe the last 5 years. It's very important to know what your risks are. Those of us here in the Sacramento area, most of us are subject to flooding. Those of you that live up at the foothills, you guys are subject to mudslides, you're subject to wildfires. So the easiest thing that you can do is first reach out to your county or city office of emergency services to find out what they're preparing for. Next, you can go right to our My Hazards portal, type in your address, type in your zip code, whichever it is that you feel most comfortable with, put that information in there, and it'll give you an overlay and a map to show you what are the risks in your immediate area. And then lastly, for a lot of you that have homeowners insurance, one of the big things you guys always have to check, I had to do it too, is you got to figure out what your flood mapping looks like. And this is an easy way to figure out whether or not you need flood insurance and so forth. So I provide the FEMA link here to find out whether or not you're sitting in a flood zone. The Cal OES My Hazards web portal does cover some of the same information as well. It even covers some of the other types of disasters that we have. I shouldn't say disasters, but hazards that are out there as well, such as volcanoes. Go ahead and go to the next slide, please. So in the state of California, we have 7 typical disasters that occur. The last one, public safety power shutoffs, is the more recent one. Obviously, that is a human-created one because we do that as a way to prevent fires from occurring, although they still will. But power outages is generally a symptom of the first 6 hazards that we face in the state of California. It's not uncommon that if a wildfire comes through, it knocks out power. It's not uncommon for an earthquake to knock out power. So we want you guys to understand that these are the 7 typical things that we face as Californians in the state. Next slide, please. Disaster frequency. I realize this slide is probably a little bit hard to tell, but that tall line that you see there is the county of Los Angeles. And I'm going to use that as an example. So those of you that are down in Southern California, this is basically disaster occurrences by county and by type. And what we look at there is that first red line that you see, that's fire, right? So obviously those of you that are living down in Southern California, specifically Los Angeles County, your biggest threat is fire. Then comes floods, and then comes earthquakes, seismic activity, and then all the other things. And this entire chart here is all 58 counties in the state of California, and it shows you all the different types of things that we look at as far as how to prepare in general. So those of you that live in more fire-prone areas, you're going to see this as probably hopefully an eye-opening experience. Or hey, it clicks that light bulb on so that you're ready to understand what you guys need to prepare for. Next slide, please. So getting into personal preparedness, the first thing that we always talk about, and these are the 5 kind of basic steps: sign up for alerts. If you are not getting alerts from the local county office of emergency services, or your local sheriff's department, or your local fire department, hey, you got to get on it. It's one of those things where generally it's whatever your data or text messaging rates apply. But the biggest thing is at least you're in the know. We always joke about being as veterans, we want to make sure we have the best situational awareness. this is the best way to get that. So sign up for alerts as soon as you can. Next thing is you want to make a plan to protect yourself and your people, right? Everybody's families look different. Sometimes you have roommates, sometimes it's you and multiple generations of family living in the same household or apartment. So you got to be able to have a plan to protect you and your family. The next two are kind of important, and we're going to talk about different supplies that you'll need to have later on in the slideshow. But you want to be able to have a go kit or a stay box, right? You never know whether or not that disaster is going to force you to evacuate or force you to shelter in place. So it's best to kind of have a very generic set of supplies that you can easily turn into a go kit, or it can turn into a stay box. And lastly, check on your neighbors. You never know who may have access and functional needs or are disabled in some way, shape, or form and may need additional help getting out of the area. So it's that kind of, we always call it the buddy check, right? So if your neighbors to your left and right, check on them, make sure that they're doing the same thing and you're doing what you can. And on the right-hand side, there's a QR code. So for those of you with your smart devices, you can actually scan that now, or you can go to our Cal OES Family Readiness Guide and download it. It's a little over 20 pages, and it's a comprehensive way to help you guys look at preparedness through various different lenses and things that you guys can do to help, expand on your own preparedness efforts. Next slide, please. So when we talk about alerts and warnings, if you go to the calalerts.org sign up, so this is grant funded and sponsored by the state of California, and it's a clearinghouse of all the different counties and their specific alerts pages. So you go there, you click on the sign up tab, and then you click on your individual county, and then it'll take you to that county page where you can sign up for alerts. So you don't have to try and fumble through Google and find it out. You can go right to this page, click on your county, and sign up right away. The other thing that we always encourage is signing up for the Earthquake Warning California app. It used to be called the Early Earthquake Warning, but as you know, there is no such thing as an early earthquake warning. What it comes down to is this. The app will allow you to receive alerts if one is detected. And generally what that means is, hey, try to do your best to drop cover and hold in place or find the safest area you can be during an earthquake. With that being said, again, the application is free. Data rate supplied, that's based on your guys' individual phone services. But at the end of the day, it's just one more tool to make sure that you're alerted and prepared for what may come. And then obviously the most important thing is check with your local jurisdictions. Know the difference between an evacuation warning and an evacuation order. The last thing you want to be, the position you want to be in is receiving that evacuation order and you were never prepared to begin with. So we always suggest don't wait to evacuate. As soon as you get that warning, start, if you haven't already got your stuff together, get it together. So you have to leave, you're ready to go. And like I said, always check with your county office of emergency services for more information. And a lot of times CAL FIRE can help you out with the same information as well. Next slide, please. So earlier we talked about making a plan. The first thing you always want to do is have a communications plan. If you're moving from one location to another and the roads may be, clogged because other people are evacuating, create a communications plan. Make sure that wherever you're going, other people outside the area know that you're going there. One of the big things we saw during the Camp Fire and other really bad disasters was that nobody really called out. And so we had people that were missing for months on end. And some people ended up at shelters, other people just never took their phones with them. So it's always one of those things where if you have a mobile device or you have some means of communicating with family or friends, let them know that you're on your way or let them know that you're evacuating your home. Gather and organize your supplies. Again, a few slides later, we're going to talk about a supply list. And then have a couple of meeting places, right? One that's immediately from your home in case you guys are on various different properties or you get separated. Have multiple places where you guys can link up and rendezvous. The more important thing is you want to make sure that you're remaining, as we would talk in the military, command and control of your family element. So this is one way to do that. And then obviously identify multiple routes out of your community. Roads are going to get blocked off. So, a lot of times people are like, oh, well, the easiest way to get to town is to go north. Well, in this case, that's where the fire is. So you may need to look at the map and figure out other ways to get out of there. And a lot of times when they put out those evacuation warnings and orders, they put in the road messaging as well. So you know which roads to take out of an area. So pay attention to that. And lastly, don't forget your pets. One of the big things that we see generally at the end of a disaster or during the response of a disaster is there's a lot of hobby farms. There's a lot of pets left behind that end up at various shelters because neighbors pick them up or things like that. So, don't be that guy. Pick up your pets, make sure they go with you, and make sure you plan for them as well because they're going to need water and food. And it's always helpful to have WAG bags to go to. Next slide, please. Prepare your documents, right? As veterans, we generally have an I Love Me book or an I Love Me binder that keeps all of that paperwork in there. And if you don't have one of those, you should. But it's really important to make sure that you have recent photographs of your family in case you all get separated. Have your personal records in a fireproof box of some sort, or have it readily available to grab and go. Financial records, right? These are your insurance policies, your bank statements, anything that's going to help you get back on your feet after a disaster. Those are the documents that we're talking about. And so these are some of the different ones that we want to have. Most importantly, be able to identify, be able to, have those financial records available. And then, like I said, anything that's going to get you tapped into benefits at the end of a disaster, such as being able to go to CalVet or to the Veteran Affairs, you're going to want those forms because it's going to make the process that much easier if you have those forms ready to go. So if you don't already, get an I Love Me binder together, get an I Love Me folder together that has all of that important information regarding you and your family ready to go. Next slide, please. So again, we've been talking about basic supplies. What is it? It's water, food, blankets, prescription medication, and have an emergency radio just in case, cell phone, extra batteries, backup batteries, flashlights, a first aid kit. Those of you that have grandkids staying with you, or your nephews and nieces are over, or, just in general, anybody can get hurt during the evacuation. That's everything from dropping the go box on your foot to, hey, we were driving through and there was fire on both sides of the road and you get first degree burns. So you want to be able to be prepared for those types of things. So a general first aid kit is going to be super helpful. Hygiene products. Not every shelter is going to be equipped right away to handle showers and whatnot. So you're going to want to have, some sort of baby wipe setup ready to go. Those of you that spend a lot of time in the field know those baby wipe showers go a long way. Again, WAG bags. Can't stress that enough. And obviously have some tools with you. We talk about wrenches and pliers to turn off utilities. Those are kind of important things because the last thing you want to do is make, your home with all the utilities that are going on be a part of the situation. So being able to shut off gas, turning off water, making sure that things like that are readily, taken care of before you evacuate. Prevent your home from becoming part of it, because if you don't have regular gas lines, you don't have to worry about that stuff. Having maps and cash for emergency purposes. As I talked about, power outages occur. So if you're driving through a gas station, guess what? You may only be able to use cash as a transaction because the electronic systems may be down. And again, sleeping bags and blankets for every person in your party. So those are some of the basic supplies. Organize them how you like, but remember, you want to be able to have something in a go kit or a stay box, either way, depending on what the situation is, but you want them kind of generally in the same area so that you can easily work with them is what you need. Next slide, please. Now we're going to get into property preparedness. This one kind of taps more into those of you that live up in that wildland urban interface, or those of you that are actually in the foothills or in more forested areas. But anybody can kind of do these same things too. So first off, you need to check with what check and update your homeowner's property insurance. Those folks that are living up in the foothills and the mountains where generally fire insurance isn't available, the state of California does sponsor a co-op that you could opt into. They do have their own rules and regulations as far as what you guys need to do is to prepare your home. And generally some of the things that I'm going to talk about are going to be, found in that same information. But you're going to want to make sure that you have adequate homeowners insurance to cover for the different types of things that where it's fire, flood, earthquake, and so forth. Again, if you're in a fire-prone area, create defensible space. For those of you that aren't aware, and hopefully you are by this point in time, but if you're not, you can always check with your Cal Fire Safe Council. They provide lots of different resources that are available to on different tactics and techniques to help you make your house more safe. And then if you're a tsunami zone, most importantly, know where high ground is. And that's one of those things where, when a tsunami alert comes through, you may only have a few minutes to get to where you need to, and you better know where that high ground is. And hopefully you've got flood insurance to kind of cover some of that stuff as well. Next slide, please. So when we talk about creating defensible space, right? The picture on the right kind of explains a little bit of what we're talking about here. Most importantly, you want to remove combustible fuels away from the house. That means you're removing brush, you're cutting down trees, you're cutting back branches. If you tend to have if you live in one of those places where pine needles tend to collect on the roof, you're going up there on the roof or having somebody get on the roof, clearing those out on a regular basis. You're trying to do your best to keep mulch away. You're trying to create a defensible space around the property that would prevent flying embers from catching other things on fire. It also includes moving your barbecue gas tanks away. If you have a shed or some other offsite location within your property, move that stuff over there. Try to do what you can, again, to prevent your house from going up in flames. And these are the things that we talk about. A big one is clearing space between trees, right? So, sometimes that means going in and cutting out undergrowth, getting rid of new trees that are growing, things like that. Everything that you guys can do to make it so that there's less combustible stuff in and around your home is the best thing you can do. Next slide, please. So around the home, and this usually means inside the house, right? So we want you to make sure that you're installing and maintaining your smoke and carbon monoxide detectors. Brace and earthquake-proof your furniture, right? That means bracketing, bookshelves to the wall, making sure that any sort of appliance has the anti-tipping devices built into it. So all of those types of things, they generally cost $5 to $10 for a set of those earthquake straps. Go down to Home Depot, Lowe's, or your local hardware store, pick up something like that so that you at least have that stuff and you can put it on right away. Last thing you want to happen is you're trying to brace for an earthquake and a bookshelf falls on you or one of your family members. So, take care of that stuff around the house. Check your fire extinguishers. Some people, have them, some people don't. They're relatively inexpensive to go pick up a couple of different versions of the fire extinguisher at your local hardware store. I do highly suggest you keep, at least one or two around the house, especially in those areas where fires are prone. So, for example, those of you that cook with gas grills or gas burners, you're going to probably want a fire extinguisher near that stuff. Generally, most of us, if you have a garage and you keep a lot of your hazardous chemicals in that garage, well, guess where you should keep a fire extinguisher? Near the garage for that type of stuff. So these are the types of things you want to kind of think about and have readily available. And then for those of you that are generally in those fire prone areas or in those areas where power outages generally occur, due to PSPS or whatnot, make sure you, or try to, if you can, get a backup generator. Especially when you want to keep your food cold or, just the general necessities taken care of. Last thing you want to do is lose an entire fridge full of food. So if you can get one of those, that's great. And generally those things will, with a full tank of gas can last you over 24 hours. And just, again, these are all the kind of important things that we talk about. And as I've already mentioned it before, know where utility shutoffs are and how to turn them off. That includes your electrical, your gas, and your water. You don't want to, long story short, you don't want a gas line continuing to fuel a fire in case there's one near your home. So best thing to do is be able to shut them off. Next slide, please. So going above and beyond, a lot of times when we talk about being, as a veteran, we're trying to take care of our own. We're trying to take care of our troops, trying to take care of our teams, that type of stuff. In this case, we're trying to take care of our family and our friends. But once you've kind of done that, if you have the ability to go above and beyond what you've already done in your immediate area, there are multiple organizations out there to volunteer with. Most everybody is familiar with the American Red Cross. Within every community, sponsored either by the Sheriff's Department, your local fire council, or your emergency services department, there's going to be a community emergencies response team. And it's a volunteer organization where you can help do emergency response in your area. AmeriCorps and Californians for All are two different other volunteer organizations that are sponsored by the state. And then lastly, you can always join the California State Guard. So this is a pseudo military organization, generally made up of volunteers. Prior service is helpful, but it's not a must. And it's another way that you guys can volunteer to help support local jurisdictions, your local communities, in providing those types of help in the long run. So again, we always encourage, if you can go above and beyond, that's great. And next slide, please. So again, we talked about all the different useful links that are there. So sign up for alerts via Cal Alerts, My Hazards, know exactly what things live near you, right? So for example, if you live in a volcano zone, you're gonna wanna know that. Your California Fire Safe Councils have links to every single county in the state and the different sub-councils that are there to help provide additional information on how to prepare your home for wildfires. And then obviously FEMA's ready.gov is a clearinghouse of all the things that the feds look at as far as readiness in general. We take a lot of our information from them as well, and we try to break it down for California specifically. And then Cvsos California is a huge program that's across the state of California that gives some of the basic steps for individual preparedness and family preparedness. Next slide, please. So again, lastly, I just want to thank you from one veteran to another. I appreciate you guys sitting here and listening to our talk on general preparedness. And if there's any questions, I'll be on the line to help out and hopefully answer those. Again, if there's anything else that you need from me, let me know and I'll do my best to try to answer those questions. Thank you again.
Great, Nick. Thank you so much for your time and all the valuable information provided. We really, truly appreciate it. Thank you so much. Okay. At this time, I am going to turn it over to Joe Johnson, who's an emergency management specialist with the VA Northern California Healthcare System. So Joe, if you are ready, feel free to take it away.
Okay, well, thank you, Derek, and thank you, Nick, for that incredible presentation on wildfire, on disaster preparation. You can't get enough of that. Joe Johnson here. I'm a 30-year federal employee, 25-year VA, most of that in San Francisco. Spent the last 5-6 years out here in Sacramento for VA NorCal. 5-year U.S. Army veteran. Did my time, was a Desert Storm, Desert Shield vet. So it's an honor to be here today on behalf of VA Northern California Healthcare System to speak with you on our wildfire response protocols. Nick just gave you a great presentation on how to prepare, and after all that preparation and planning and taking care of your troops, you still end up evacuated due to a wildfire or a natural disaster. And then this is where VA NorCal and the VA healthcare systems kick in. So next slide, please, sir. Yeah, so what are the missions of the VA? Well, I could tell you the first three, there's 4. The first 3 have to deal with care for our veterans, care for our veteran spouses, and educating the next generation of healthcare professionals. The fourth is where I come in. It's to improve our preparedness in response to war, terrorism, natural disasters, and basically to ensure that all of our veterans and our veteran patients continue their care during the trying times such as disasters. Next slide, please. Thank you. How do we do this? We have the VHA Comprehensive Emergency Management Program. The Office of Emergency Management is our program lead. And we basically, our job is to put the plan in place, the mitigation, preparedness, response, and recovery activities. And our primary focus, as with the fourth, is to make sure we have continuity of care for our veteran patients. Next slide, please, sir. Now, how do we do this? It's a simple process that we've kind of developed over the years. Here in Northern California, we have the opportunity to have to deal with some of the largest wildfires in California. Right now, of course, we're dealing with 5 consecutive fires with evacuation orders. So at this time, we're tracking those fires and we're doing what we do in our protocol. But the first thing we do is we assess, we get the information via news, via social media, word of mouth. A lot of times it's our site managers and our Cbox located up and down the state, and they'll let us know something's going on. We have an issue. And so the first thing we do is we validate that information and get the disaster information. And we get we assess the disaster zones by city, town, county. We work with our local officials to try to get as much information as we can. And we determine the zip codes of the area. So if there's an evacuation, one of the first things we do is try to determine the zip codes. Once we determine the zip codes, we send that information to our telephone call center folks through our BDMS group. It's Benefits Data Management Service. And they are activated to call or attempt to call all veteran patients residing in that zip code. So it does get challenging because sometimes the event is only in a small area of the zip code, but we'll contact all veterans to assess what their current situation is and provide information on whatever we have on the evacuation zones and the evacuation shelters that are available to them. And we also ask them about their current health state. Go ahead, next slide, please. And from those calls, we determine, and we do get help from VA Central Office and Office of Emergency Management in various programs that are coming on board now to help assess areas and situations. But we have what we call vulnerable patient populations that we specifically look for. And as you can see in this list, it's patients in nursing homes, community nursing homes, state-run nursing homes, local hospitals. We want to track our dialysis patients, making sure they can continue their service. Homeless veterans, we have a homeless vet program that is really outstanding, and part of their protocol is to put a disaster plan for our veterans and reach out to them when there's a disaster in their area. Our home-based primary care patients at home. We also develop disaster plans for them, and the home-based primary care group, especially the group up in the North State and the Bay Area, are just outstanding. They usually come to me first with a disaster intel, and they've already reached out. So it's really good that we're getting this system somewhat. It just goes by itself. O2 patients needing supplies, spinal cord patients, you kind of get where we're going. All the vulnerable patients that will require extra assistance, especially in the setting of an evacuation shelter. We try our best to outreach and reach them and make sure their services and their continuity of care is not disrupted. Go ahead, next slide. What do we do at the evacuation center? We send out our primary care evacuation outreach team. It's usually consist of nurses and social workers, and they go to the evacuation shelter. They introduce themselves to the staff. Staff are usually quite welcoming. And we troll for veterans. We ask the shelter staff if they could set up a list for anyone who is a veteran patient, to identify themselves, and we could reach out to them to help with their continuity of care. What do? We and as Nick was saying, you really have to prepare yourselves to evacuate. So a lot of people, far too many, leave their home without the medications that they require. So one of the big parts of our job is to make sure that we can make sure the veteran can get connected to a local pharmacy where they can get their medical, their pharmacy refills. Rescheduling appointments, a lot of times road closures, evacuation shelters, they evacuate their home. There's no way to meet their appointments. We'll try to establish contact with them and make sure we reschedule their appointments in a timely manner. Also, we'll bring VA assets, transportation assets to the evacuation centers to make sure we can transport patients to the nearest operational VA clinic. And that's another story. How do we keep our clinics functioning during disasters, which is, we have to deal with the issues too. We're fortunate in a lot of the VA NorCal locations. We're more situated in the valley, so we haven't had to evacuate any of our facilities for fire, unlike our counterpart in Reno with Susanville right now is having to shut down their Susanville clinic, and they are doing the same thing we are doing here, going through the shelters and making sure patients are continuing their care and reaching out to veterans. And then we also link up with the Readjustment Counseling Service and the Mobile Vet Center, which is an awesome piece of equipment. It's basically a rolling clinic, a rolling office where our healthcare providers will link up with the RCS staff and just kind of provide a full service, one-stop shop for veterans. And so it's a really a wonderful collaboration that we have been growing over the last few years, and it's really a great program. And how about for veterans not enrolled in VA healthcare? Well, you know, our job there, we're there to assist them and to assist them in enrolling into the veteran healthcare system. You know, and I think our presence there gives them a sense of confidence and let them know that, you know, hey, you know, even though I don't feel I need VA help, or I never thought about it, but wow, this is a great group that comes out to check on their veterans. I want to be a part of this. So, you know, as you'll see later, I think on in the presentations, there's ways to you know, if you're a veteran not enrolled in VA healthcare, please consider it. It's a great resource. Next slide, please. Yeah, okay, yeah, that was my last slide. So it's just a quick run of what we do at the VA healthcare system level. Please, if you have, you know, need any information, you can always go to www.va.gov, or if you want to know more about our healthcare system, you can go to the Northern California Healthcare link right there. So I'll be available for any questions. But once again, thank you for the opportunity to address you today and let you know how VA NorCal conducts business during these times. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joe, for all that vital information on VA healthcare. It is extremely valuable, and we really appreciate your time today, and we appreciate all that information that you gave us. Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jennifer Rudquist, and I'm proud to say I am a CalTAP training coordinator at Calvet, and I am on the CalTAP team with Derek. I was on the back end. I'm the one in the chat function in there, putting all those links in there for you. Something else that I want to say is that you can copy and paste those links into a Word document so you can use them anytime, or they also are in those emails that were sent to you guys through the Eventbrite. So in addition to being on the CalTAP team, I am also an Air Force veteran myself. I'm a military brat of 18 years. I am an Air Force wife to a 26-year active duty airman. I am a mother of 3 airmen. So I can relate to all of you guys here today attending this webinar. And with that being said, I want to take a moment to thank all of you, service members, veterans, spouses, children, parents, families, friends, all of you guys. Thank you for what you've done and what you continue to do to support the United States Armed Forces. Uniformed or not, I understand that all of you guys serve. So thank you. I want you to know, cradle to grave, that Calvet and all the organizations here today truly want to serve you. They're passionate about getting resources and assistance to you guys, and we encourage you guys to reach out to us if you're in any need or if you just have questions. During this part of the presentation, myself and Kevin Graves, he's our Calvet link in the Bay Area, we're going to speak together to you about the local assistance available to you and your families, whether it be during a disaster like a wildfire or you just need assistance. These resources are invaluable. I'm going to hand it over back to Kevin, and he's going to go over the local assistance centers. Kevin?
Great. Next, there you go. So the local assistance centers are set up at the county level with coordination and actually through the request of Cal OES. At a certain level of loss has been determined, and then all those resources and come together in one centralized location that may be determined by where the fire is, what's the most convenient, or what has the greatest population base at the time. And these local assistance centers have everything from getting your registration, getting your registration papers if you lost them, to death certificates, marriage certificates, anything that you have lost in the fire, as well as resources with regards to how to rebuild after the fire, to get permits to clear your land. All these kinds of things are provided at the local assistance center. We also have a veteran presence at the center, and it typically consists of one of the links from Calvet. It also you'll have representation from the VA, and most important, and also you will also have representative from the County Veteran Service Office, who can help you immediately start filing these forms. When a disaster occurs, typically we're able to circumvent some of the regular waiting periods in order to facilitate you getting what you need right away. And some of the things that you may not even think about that you might lose, and I'll go back to an example of the Santa Rosa fire about 3 years ago, was people had to leave so quick. The fire were coming down the street so fast that some of them couldn't grab their medications. Some of them couldn't grab their hearing aids. So we're not necessarily even talking about awards or DD-214s. We're talking about things that you need the next day. And those things can be expedited by the VA and by us. And we provide that service for you at the local assistance centers. Again, they're tend to be centrally located, and they're set up based on how much losses have been occurred, and sometimes with the help of FEMA. Next slide, please. So here's some of the resources that are available at an LAC, and this is just a portion of what's related to you as a veteran, but there's all kinds of general resources available there too. I will also add, the last item there is grief counseling. The VA is really good about setting a mobile vet center up to the LACs. They're typically there from day one. They have grief counselors on site. They have clinical physicians there to work with grieving situations or mental health care, and basically to help you facilitate replacing and connecting back with the VA. Next slide, please. This is where you would go to find where there is a local assistance center that's been set up. You also, another good resource for that would be to go to the county website. If you're in Placer County, go to Placer County, go to Placer County's website, and there'll be a link there for the LAC that's set up. The way things are with COVID, sometimes these LACs now are being set up virtually. It may not be someplace where you can actually walk into, but there'll be resources available to you either virtually or on a limited basis, depending on what the needs are. Next slide, please.
So I'm going to go over how to find these different things.
There you go.
So the first resource we had was fire.ca.gov. So once you go to this website, you're going to go to incidents. From there, you're going to search on the right side of the page to find the fire that you are involved in, or maybe a loved one is in. Click on that. And then on the left side there that's circled, it says view details. Once you do that, it's going to open up all the details about where the local assistances are, different other facts about the fire, where it's spreading, who's evacuated, all those other great information. So fire.ca.gov is a great resource. Next slide. So this is our website. That's calvet.ca.gov. This is a fantastic source of information for you guys. Usually when you open up this website, it'll pop up with those alerts. You'll see that we have it circled there. There's a red, blue, and an orange there. The top there is the wildfires. Now, if that doesn't pop up, it might not. Go to alerts, and that's that little circle we have on the top. Just click on that and it'll pop up those different options there. Next slide. Once you do that, it's going to take you to the California Wildfire information page. Here is some great resources for you, to include the links, maybe the local interagency network coordinators like Kevin, their contact information. Maybe you're having a hard time finding a local assistance center. They can assist you to find that. Maybe there isn't one, and they can assist you with finding different resources. There's information on CAL FIRE, on the air quality. There's information for VA facilities, all sorts of great stuff on there. And at the top, if there is an LAC, it is going to be at the top of our page there. It says LAC, the locations and such. Next slide. So this is news.caloes.ca.gov. So this is really great because this is a direct link to those LACs and information. So you can see the third one down, the third little option there is LACs. You can click on that to find out all the different LACs that are going on right now. So that's news.caloes.ca.gov. Fantastic website. Next slide. So this is where I'm going to hand it over to Kevin to talk about the Vet Center Assistance. Oh, Kevin, you're muted.
Yes, I was. I I heard a round of applause when I heard I was muted. I mentioned earlier that the vet centers have mobile vet centers that they send out, and they're just big. Mostly you've probably seen them. They're big mobile homes. They have special areas available for counseling, for just a nice, cool area to hang out for a while. Plus having all the resources and benefits that are behind the VA, which, as we know, is a very large machine. And again, they primarily provide mental health care. They have both social services as well as mental health care services available through their counselors and their clinicians that are part of their staff. And they're there to serve primarily combat vets, but they have expanded that to mean also families of combat vets, Gold Star families, other families, and family members that have needs. And they are a tremendous benefit when you might be struggling with some mental health issues. So that is how we partner with them. Go ahead and take me to the next slide. And I think you're going to take this, aren't you? Or am I going to? I guess I'm taking this. Okay, yeah. I'll take this.
Yeah.
So some of the things that we can provide for you are replacement DD-214s. We can replace awards. Things we can't provide for you if you've lost memorabilia, a jacket that you wore, something that you weren't supposed to bring home from the war and you have it as a memorabilia and it's gone now because of the fire. We can't replace those kinds of things, but if you've gotten awards and ribbons and medals, we can help you get apply to have those things replaced. And these are the different areas in which we do that. You will have these in your packet and you can see these, but they're also all available. Hopefully you won't need to replace these things, and hopefully you won't have to go to these resources. But if you do, these are where we go, or we can guide you to go to replace any of the forms, awards, medals, that type of thing. Medical records. Nick talked very extensively about putting that stuff in a place where it won't get destroyed, whether it be a fireproof box, that type of thing. Some of that stuff is not replaceable, and you want to make sure you hold on to it. So again, these are the resources that we use, and we would work with you to use to recover whatever it is that you might have lost in the fire. Next slide.
So this is where I'm going to step in about the County Veteran Service Office. This is a great resource, whether it be during a fire or just every day, for everyday uses or any other needs that you might need. Next slide. So County Veteran Service Office is, they provide veterans and dependents free benefit information and assistance and counseling. The Cvsos in 2020 brought in approximately 540 million new federal benefits and 336 million in continuing and benefits for California veterans. It's insane the money that's there that is for you guys. That is, if you can just access that, and if you can go to these Cbsos, you can put in those claims and such, like things like that. You're gonna, you guys are going to be compensated. So it's fantastic. Next slide. These are all the different things that the Cvsos can do for you, all the ways that they can help you. They can help you with your comprehensive benefit counseling. They can claims and compensation, like I said, pension, life insurance, records requests, discharge upgrades. It's all sorts of stuff that you might need, whether it be during a fire or just in, for everyday needs. So please check them out. Burial benefits, all sorts of great stuff. Networking, their advocacy. They work with the state, the federal government, and local agencies. So they are all in one. And so we all of us, all the different entities, including the Cvsos, we all work together to get those benefits out to you guys. Next slide. So how do you find your Cvsos? Next slide. You're going to go to our resource book, which I sent to you guys as a PDF in the chat, and also was in your emails from the Zoom. And next slide. Or you can find the Cvsos through our website. There's a few different areas on our main page. At the top there, find your Cvso, find a service provider. You can go and call that number, and then it'll do a phone tree over to your area. Or you can go see if you get Cvso on the bottom, and that's going to list all the counties' Cvsos and their times, addresses, phone numbers. Next slide. So just this is a resource recap of everything that was in our presentation today. So take a snapshot of this. Also know that this is also in your pre-packet. This is also going to be put in the chat. You just copy and paste that. Next slide. So this is a portion in our presentation where we're going to go over the questions and answer section. We went through this quite fast. So there should be some questions. If not, you guys can ask us later. You guys can email us. Everybody's email is right here. I was monitoring the chat. We didn't have any questions, but if you do have questions now, put them in the chat, put them in the questions and answer, and we can address all of those. Again, while we're waiting for that, I'm just going to reiterate that in addition to this webinar, Calvet, CalTAP, we have hosted quite a bit of webinars since the beginning of COVID, and they're all recorded on our website. I put that also in the chat. And then also I want you guys to know that later on, maybe today or tomorrow, within the few days, you will get an email with our survey link. That survey we use every single day, and we truly look at those, and we take all of your comments, your questions, your concerns, the things that we're doing right, the things we're doing wrong, and we tailor all of our presentations to make the best presentations and the best information out to you guys. So if you could fill out those surveys, they're so invaluable to us, and they're invaluable to all the other service members, veterans, and their families. Derek, do you have anything?
No, Jen, nothing to add on my end. Just want to thank everybody for their time and participation in the webinar. Joe, Nick, to you both especially. I think this is our first time collaborating with each other, and I think that was great information to get out. So just want to thank you all for your partnership as well. And just reiterate what Jen said about our post-event survey. We do value that feedback. We can kind of give it a few minutes for any questions to come in. But other than that, nothing to add from me, Jen. So
we still haven't gotten any questions, but I want to go to the next slide because the next slide is pretty valuable to you guys. The next slide over is our upcoming webinar. So let's say that maybe you missed part of this webinar. You can rewatch it again on the 24th, or it will be recorded later on. Let's see. We still don't have anything.
Yeah, I think that's good, Jen.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Well, with that, I think we can go ahead and conclude for the day. So thanks everybody for your time, your participation. It was a pretty decent turnout from the event. And just a reminder, we are going to be hosting this event again next week. If you'd like to join, or if, for any reason anybody wasn't able to make this event, we're going to be hosting the same one on the 24th. So thank you all again. And with that, wish everybody thank you for your service, your family members as well, and stay safe. That's the number one important thing. So with that,
thanks everybody.
Yeah, we'll sign off and have a good rest of your day. Thanks again.